All right. Good morning, Bills and bow ties. My medicine has not kicked in yet, so I may look a little sideways this AM. Happy Friday. So, um, I guess I've been kind of like half paying attention to what's been going on the last couple of days, but I did kind of like clock in a little bit to see what people talking about. I was looking at my feed. Um, I mostly just listen to one or two podcasts that make me hee haw, and then I move on with my day. But when I was on TikTok, I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to get myself together here. Oh, gosh. And, you see murmurings over the last week or two, and it could just be what's been curated in my feed. We talk about a lot, some of the trap life stuff comes up again. People are just talking about relationships. And it got me thinking about my relationship. And I was like, well, am I unconventionally conventional or conventionally unconventional? I don't know. So, my husband and I essentially operate off of two separate bank accounts. I mean, we have multiple bank accounts, but in a previous video, I did mention how we were originally looking to move me over to his bank account, and that was going to be our operating, like our main account that we paid bills from, everything like that. And in the process of getting everything set up, like I hadn't even gone through with moving everything over yet, right? I was just trying to get added on, and my name had changed. But when my name had changed, I had issues accessing money from my own account at the time, right? So I was basically locked out of my account. I had to go through the whole like, this is who I am, here's my marriage certificate, blah, blah, blah. But then also trying to get access to his account. And then my name, like I said, my name had changed, but not everything matched up. It was just a mess. So I was like, oh my goodness, I don't like this. Long story short, I didn't want to. I look how crazy I look. I got my hair twisted and it's pinned up, and I'm just going through it. Hopefully, this will kick in soon. But anyway, so I wound up just keeping my own checking account, savings account, and my husband kept his. And then there was the one that I was put on that I still have access to that I never, ever, ever used, but I could see everything that's in there. And we ended up keeping separate accounts. And we ended up just saying, hey, look, this is how we're going to move. Like, you'll pay these things, I'll pay these things. Like, he pays the mortgage and some other things, and I pay some things, right? And it has been that way ever since. And so, like, I do still listen to Dave Ramsey at times. I do find some of his content entertaining. I don't agree with everything he says, but for the most part, largely, he has good sense. You take what you like and you toss the rest. Or you take what makes sense, you toss the rest. But much of what he says is good sound advice. But he's always talking about, or the people who are on his platform, they talk about you need to have a combined account. And I'm like, well, my husband and I have been together, and we don't even operate like that. We don't have a secret, actually. Um, like he can get into my accounts and everything like that. He can do all kinds of stuff, right? Like there's no secret. I know what's in his accounts. Half the time I forget because I don't inquire enough or look enough, and he shows me or vice versa, right? Some of our stuff is linked together, even though I'm not on his account. I don't know if that makes any sense, right? So, like for example, like maybe some of our brokerage accounts or whatever through Fidelity or whatever, right? Where am I going with this? How are you guys feeling about this whole concept of separate accounts? They make it sound like you're not a couple if you don't have a joint account. And they've operated this way for years, and we don't even think about it. It was only until about maybe a month ago, I was talking with some people, and they were surprised. When I was like, they were like, "You're not in the same account." I'm like, "We have separate accounts." And they looked at me like I was speaking in tongues. Because many of them, I guess if they stay home, they're all on one account. Um, and I think even the one that doesn't stay home. But I was like, we have separate accounts because we trust each other to just pay what you need to pay. And I said, like, it's been that way for years. I've never not had a home. The lights have never been cut off. Our phones have always been on. you know, um, but it was such a pain. And as a woman, I did not like that feeling. I was like, I already changed names, but like the fact that like it was such a pain in the butt with any of my accounts. And I remember I just didn't like that feeling. So I ended up keeping my accounts. I changed my name, but I ended up going through with all my accounts, getting my accounts changed to the new name. And I just kept my accounts. So I'm curious to hear what you guys are thinking about couples who share the same account. Is it smart? So I have some pros and cons of my thoughts. So, for one, let me tell you the reason why I like the fact that I have separate accounts for my husband. Not secret accounts, they're separate accounts. For one, I am independent. I'm a financially independent person, meaning I don't have to mother may I anything. We have this verbal agreement that if we're going to make a purchase over a certain amount of money, then we need to have a discussion. But we talk about money all the time anyway. Like literally, we're sometimes we talk about. I mean, it could be anything. So our communication dialogue is both ways, right? My husband's always telling me what's going on. Plus, he's like fanatical about how we plan for our future and retirement, and yeah, he can get real like psycho about it. No, we gotta do this because he in his mind, he has a number that he wants for us. And everyone should have a number, right? So we have open communication on everything down to like bills and college and mortgage, everything, everything. Half the time I'm listening. I mean, I listen, but having a separate account, I'm sorry, I digress. I definitely feel a lot more freer. I can do what I need to do. I don't have anybody looking over my shoulder like, hey, you know what? You're going out to lunch too much. Now, granted, I don't go out to lunch virtually ever, like virtually never, because I'm also like, it just costs too much money. I don't want to spend my hard-earned dollars going out to lunch all the time. Once in the blue moon, I might buy breakfast. But generally speaking, I don't spend money on those kinds of things. But it allows me the ability to do things the way I want. I'm not in a situation where I have ever had to worry about if somebody wants to withhold money from me or take money from me or whatever like that. I do what I need to do. Two, I don't have any power struggles. Meaning, if you're combining your money into an account, now this is just my insecurity, okay? I'm not going to say this is everyone else. My mom and stepdad, they operated like conventionally for eternity in terms of how they handled money. He just put all his money in the account. My mom managed it, and she was the boss of all the pennies. Um, but generally speaking, my insecurity would kick in because although I do pretty decent for myself. My husband makes more than me. And I don't ever want to be in a situation where someone has more say over like, well, I put this amount in there, so what I say goes on. Like, and I'm not saying he's like this overlord, but I want no parts of that. I don't know. I'm happy the way it is. He doesn't seem to be all that pressed anyway because we just take care of business, right? And we're a team. And if I ever needed something, he's like, I got you. Number three, I feel like it's easier for me to budget because I just like having my own, having agency in myself. So I know these are the things that I'm responsible for. And then after that, this is how I'm going to move forward or whatever. So I think about things like, like when people are married and they have, like, if you're all on the same account, and if somebody's not paying the bill or something like that, well, it affects both of your credit. Well, we operate a little differently. So if anything happens, like we know that, for example, I'm just making this up. What if we needed to leverage credit for something? And let's say I dummied up and just went out on I don't know, a shopping spree for hair bows, I don't know, and lost my mind, and now I can't recover. You know, well, if my husband did not do that, he still maintains good standing. But if we're all on the same account and then things aren't being paid or whatever it is, well, then we're both negatively impacted by that. Now, granted, I know maybe I'm overthinking, but I like having agency, self agency, right? You know, I don't know. I just feel like I don't have to answer for these small things. I don't know. Like I can create that separateness. I mean, we're still a unit, but I like having agency in myself. I like knowing that, like, if he should dumb me up one day, well, I can still leverage credit if I need to for maybe a home respect. What if we were all on the same account and he dummied up and decided he wanted to start a sock empire and then it tanked immediately? And now, if we were all on the same accounts, well, you have a separate business account, but you understand what I'm saying? Like, we could be in a world of hurt. And then what if he like spontaneously like blew up or something? Now I gotta start all over. What if I have to? Well, I wouldn't have to move out of our house, but like, what if I need to go get a new house? I'd have to like leverage the bank. So I don't know. That's just where I'm at with it. Um, and again, I think going to the next point that I wrote down is like there's a separation of personal credit, right? So I like the fact that we both have our separate lines. Not that we wouldn't before, like, if you're all in the same accounts, but I just think that it's okay to be separate on some things, even though we still have an account that if I need to access, I could. But we have our separate accounts, we have our separate credit, we have a little bit of individuality, although we are still a unit. So when people are like freaking out, like you're not on the same account, I'm like, no, I mean, I am, but like we don't operate our normal household budgeting stuff does not come from the same account, you know. So we just separate. Like you pay for these things, I pay for these things. So groceries anybody can pay for, but he's paying for the mortgage and that type of thing. Like you know what I mean. So like it is what it is. If I had to, I would, but I don't have to. So I have other responsibilities. Um, I think there's less conflict too over that, right? So, we have different credit cards. So we know what we're spending on a credit card, right? Like my husband freaks out. He's like, I got $500 on my card for buying sneakers and blah, blah, blah. And he pays it off. And for the most part, my credit card stays paid off too. But the way I look at it is like it makes it clean and clear who's doing what. He has a different credit card than what I have. It's really that simple. So I know these are all of my charges. So if I want to buy, you know, a Starbucks or something from Amazon, I know it was me. And when he's like, why are all these boxes here? I'm like, I don't know. That wasn't you. So, I mean, I exaggerated a little, but I think you understand my point. But the main thing is just that I feel like it gives me a lot more freedom to move. It gives me the ability to just have autonomy for myself. Now for those of you who are married and you believe in combined accounts, these are some of the cons that I think. I'm sorry. These are some of the cons against having separate accounts. I'm sorry. One, I think when you do have separate accounts, okay, so everything is not as transparent. So For example, my husband and I, we definitely have to work harder to communicate. Although a lot of times we have things linked, but we definitely have to communicate more because it's not just obvious, right? Like you have to be intentional about what it is you want to know. Versus if you're on the same accounts, you have access to the same accounts. But it makes me think of things like in the event that you lose someone, right? When you lose someone, a lot of times the banks will freeze your account. If you're on joint accounts, like if you're married, they freeze your account for a period of time. And I just kind of feel like, well, if something happens, I feel like I don't want people freezing my account. I have my account, right? Like if something happens to my husband, I still have my account that I can operate out of until the freeze comes off the account. And like I said, because we have separate accounts, we don't have any power struggles over money. We don't. Now, I've heard before when people who were on like the same account with their husband, especially if they were stay-at-home moms, like how these men were questioning everything that they purchased, and they should if you're running into financial difficulty, if they're not being good stewards of money. I absolutely think they should. But I also don't want anyone to be like an overlord over me because they make more than me and then want to like, you know, I don't know. But I kind of get it. But I just kind of feel like, well, I have agency in myself, so nobody can tell me how to spend, even though I'm not out here doing anything crazy, right? I don't even like to go out to lunch. So, I don't know. Those are the things that I think about. And a lot of it's based off of my own insecurity. I'm like, oh no. Oh, absolutely not. Based off of the things that I've seen, especially when women get divorced from some of these men. No, sir. No, ma'am. Let me see. I think when you have separate accounts, though, I will say that sometimes it's hard to see how like your goals might not be as unified. It's hard to see everything, right? Because everything, like you gotta like really put together an aggregate picture. You have to be intentional about that because it's not all in the same place, right? So it makes it harder to achieve some of your goals. Like if you have these goals and you're trying to figure out where am I in this, and you have to constantly check in with each other versus just if it's right there, it's all combined in one place. My husband and I are constantly aggregating our retirement accounts to see like, okay, where do we stand? Are we doing well? And that's because obviously we're both working. But if you're on separate accounts, I think it does make it harder, to see like how well are you doing? How are you achieving your goals? I think it can make things complicated for bills. It could, if one person isn't earning enough or something like that, but you're responsible for something. Um, for us, it's not complicated. It's just not very complicated. Um, I can see where people, if you're not on the same account, if you're not sharing the same account space, I can see how you may experience feelings of mistrust if you don't see like what the other person is doing. You don't have that transparency. I'm fortunate that I have transparency, but half the time I don't even use it, right? Like I don't need to. um if he's doing something sinister, then I guess he got me, right? Like we don't have that kind of relationship. And if he wants to see what's going on with me, it's just not a thing. It's not. But I can see how not knowing what's happening with your spouse's accounts, I can see how you can have feelings of mistrust, but I still would rather have separate accounts. And then when I say, oh yeah, the thing about having these separate accounts is that it definitely, your communication has to be pretty open. Like you have to communicate. Now, my husband and I think we are a little bit lazy in terms of, so like my husband checks in more so because he's always fanatical about the plan. Um, so like he'll like some adjustments to like things that were invested in, et cetera, et cetera. He's always like, well, you should do good this month because this, that, and the other, and the dividends are gonna come in. It's the goal. It's when we're retired. We're gonna have this much coming in dividends. We've only got to such a principal. And blah, blah. Like he's all in. He's all in. And I love that for him. He gets off on that kind of stuff. I mean, like he's all into it. Like honestly, if he could retire and just get stock stuff, he would be in heaven. But I'd say the downside to that is like you really have to communicate a lot. Like just the other day, we were talking about establishing a new budget because although we have one in college, we've got three more coming, and we're like, we've got to be able to, afford this because we know we're not going to qualify for anything. Is we're not wealthy people, but to qualify for anything, you have to be like just severely below the poverty line. So we're at the point where we're like, okay, we just have to prepare to bootstrap this because we know that I mean, searching for scholarships and stuff like that too. I mean, there are options, but just generally speaking, so we're like, okay, like, where are we losing our budgets? Like, both of us. We were just talking about that. Like, where can we both tighten up? So, I mean, I'm not going to be able to, buy as much as I want off of Amazon. I don't buy that much off of Amazon, but sometimes I do. Look, everybody's got their vices, okay? Everyone's got their vices. Look, I'm getting low on lip gloss. It's time for me to get some lip gloss. I like to buy tons of them. I need to put two or three in my car, two or three in the car. I like to have a couple in my purse, a couple in like whatever jacket that I'm wearing. I need a new jacket because my jacket is done. The feathers are coming out. I'm like, I'm just tacky, right? But I don't spend that. The point I'm getting at is we were talking about like we're constantly checking in with each other. Look, I just need some pros and cons. I'm just curious to hear what you guys think as far as how you guys manage your marital accounts. Do you think it's smart that we have separate accounts? I mean, because I can see arguments for both sides. I'm definitely leaning towards separate accounts. For one, I have my individuality. We're still a unit. I have agency in myself. It gives me the freedom to do the things I want to do. It's not that he's like, you can't do these things, but I like knowing that I can do these things. Like, I just do what I want to do. So, yeah. All right, look. I think my medicine is starting to kick in a little. I know I look a little crazy with this crazy hairstyle, and it's giving me a headache because I got it pulled back too tight. But yeah, I just did not want to do hair, so I have my hair in these like two-strand twists, and I'm sorry going through here, but I did not want to do hair, and yeah, I just wanted a break. Oh man, this is all hanging out now. But all right, so let me get off of here because I'm making a fool of myself. Let me know what your thoughts are, and go ahead and subscribe and send this to all your aunties and all your sisters and all your friends because I'm amazing in every way and can do no wrong. Bye.